Hey, everybody. Hello, my fellow ninjas. Happy 2026. What a new year it's already been. Glad to see some familiar names, of course. It's felt like, I don't know, we were just talking about it in the middle of here, Josh, Charlie, and I talking about how New Year?
What's so new
Like,
about
what's
it?
that all about? Um, I'm realizing that too. I'm doing a rookie mistake right now, and I've got my YouTube open, and I'm hearing a terrible echo. So hopefully you guys aren't hearing that, but I'll stop that soon enough.
Nope.
Charlie, Josh, thank you so much for doing this, for kicking us off with a whole new year of Like a Ninja live streams. Before we dive into today's topic, which is very cool to see from Stryker that this is appropriate for him. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Charlie, let's start with you.
All right. My name is Charles, or Charlie. I'm a sysadmin at Renaissance IT Consulting. I've been at my company for 5 years, and I was at another company, another MSP, for 2 years before that. So I've been in the industry a little bit. Um, we've been using I've been using it cumulatively for 3, 4 years now across two companies. So um, pretty well versed in it. One of the main people who manage it, and yeah, that's about it.
You said across 3 companies, is that right?
If I said three, I was a mistake. Across two companies, sorry.
Two? No, I mean that was me totally mishearing. I did close my YouTube thing, so I have no echo now. So no excuses. But yeah, I mean, having those 2 companies. I mean, were you? Let's talk about your role a little bit. I mean, like bringing that on. Were you a Ninja user who then went to a new company who was not using Ninja, or what did that look like?
So the story doesn't start out great. When I came onto my original MSP, they were using Ninja, and Ninja back then was a different beast.
Yeah.
I wasn't really happy with it. I petitioned for us to move away. We did so, and I kind of led that charge. At my new company, they used Automate, and I did not like Automate. The whole Datto Kaseya thing happened. There wasn't many other options. We looked at Ninja again. I'm like, this is a completely different platform now. So I petitioned for it, along with some other coworkers. And we did the migration, and we're very happy now.
Well, that's good to hear. And as the person who petitioned for it, do you now feel like you bear the brunt of, okay, this is yours now? You have to figure it out. Like, no more complaining about our tools. Like, you got the one you wanted. Is that the case at all?
Um, there's always a little friction in trying to get people to fully utilize the platform sometimes, and a lot of that is because they only see it as a way to remote. Um, and we also have like ConnectWise. What is it? I can't
Manage.
remember. Man, no. They're remoting
Oh,
software.
Screen Connect.
Screen
Well,
Connect.
Connect. Yeah, ConnectWise.
Yeah, yeah. They love using Screen Connect still, and I'm trying to show them, and it's a continual process of showing, hey, this thing that you're trying to do, actually in Ninja, we can do this simply, and you don't even have to remote in, right? So, but overall, it's been a good process of, you know, showing guys, hey, this is how you do it, and then them absorbing that information. So,
Very cool. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm seeing too through the chat. Matt's got putting together some training. Wow, for 200 employees who may or may not use Ninja before. Mike also talking about putting together training materials. So definitely a topic that we want to help with. And I'm excited to have you two guys on here to talk about it, because a lot of our material that we've created on the NinjaOne side has been here's how you start from scratch to set up your tenant, and it's really more for like as you're migrating in the manager, but it's not necessarily for a new tech who starts up. And how are you going to then, like, you've got everything set up, you're trying to train a person who's new to Ninja, not setting up Ninja from scratch. And so that's something that I'm definitely interested in, because it seems a lot different. But before we get into it, Josh, great to have you here. You want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Josh. I'm the director of client services for the Tech Doctor, which is really just a fancy way of saying I do a whole lot of everything. It's a fun job for sure. We're a unique little tucked away small company, but we've been using Ninja for a comically long time, almost since day one. I think my boss jokingly always says he's pretty certain that Sal called him from his garage to sell him. So we've been through many different UI changes and function and feature changes, and I have been with this company and using Ninja for about 6 years now. So I think I've been through two major UI changes that blew my mind. And the first time I actually wasn't like really following Ninja or anything, wasn't involved in the community. I just woke up one day and logged in and everything was not where I expected it to be. So that was
Always a good experience. Everyone loves that.
It's like going to the grocery store when they decide you don't spend enough time in here with all these people, so we're going to move everything everywhere, and it's always fun. But definitely been. I famously have said it's probably our favorite tool in our entire stack, and it's always the first one I start with new hires and working with, because it's where they spend most of their time. So it's where I anticipate them to spend most of their time. So it's usually what gets the majority of the massaging in the beginning of how to use what to do and what it can do for you, because at the end of the day it does a lot for me that I don't have to do over and over and over myself, which is my favorite part.
Absolutely. Well, definitely great to hear. And thanks again for joining us, both of you. So I guess let's start off with training. Even training is a broad term, right? And I'm imagining training looks very different no matter where you go. It's going to be a little bit different. NinjaOne has its own training certification now and everything, so that's part of it. But that's just a small bit of when you bring on a new technician, and even within that, I mean, we're talking about entry level people who this whole job is new to them, or we're talking about people who are more experienced and they've come from using another RMM before. And so, Charlie, talk to me a little bit. Like, how formalized have you guys got this thing down? Do you have a ton of documentation and formalized training process, or is it a little bit more ad hoc depending on who you got coming in?
It's definitely ad hoc. And I will say, for our organization, we're a small company. Beforehand, my leadership sort of hired unicorns all along the way, right? So for a majority of the time I've been here, we've actually sort of acted as like independent nation state of techs, and we all sort of just figure it out, and we'll ask a question here or there. But as we brought on new clients and we brought on new technicians, this is where we really started to need to, more formally establish a regime of training. We're very much still working on it. One of the things that I really started doing with some of our newer techs is I'll actually, sit down with them for 4 to 6 hours, and I show them essentially how I work, right? And everyone at my company works a little bit differently, but I sort of want to set the standard of, the way I'm doing it is the correct way. As far as, what technology we're using, how to use the technology, such as Ninja or, Halo as our PSA, how I want people to respond to tickets, like the actual, copy of the response. So it's something we're continuously working on. And so far it's been somewhat successful. But yeah, that's about it.
How about with Ninja in particular? I mean, again, just one part of all the things you have to cover when you're doing training, and you're really training on what that role provides, right? That role encompasses using lots of different tools. But with Ninja in particular, do you find that there's differences from the folks who come in with a understanding of, they've used a different RMM before, and things that you have to make sure that you focus on that way versus someone who's kind of fresh to the whole MSP life to begin with?
I will say we have pretty low turnover, and most of the people we've hired, sans one, have been pretty new to MSP, or just directly new. So for them, it's been, let me show you everything, right? And it's more of like a gradual process. Like, hey, today we're going to work on day one, like how do you log in? How do you remote into a computer, right? We have like confirmation enabled, so this is what you expect. If for some reason someone's not answering, hey, maybe you reach out to them on Teams or something, give them a call. Hey, can I log in? And then from there, it's going to more complex, or maybe complex is not the right word, but different features. Mm-hmm. Hey, did you know we can look at Active Directory, right, directly from the panel? Did you know you can open command prompt, right, and open and type that script and get a response, and you don't need to open up, control or screen connect. So basically I try to start from the simplest things, the things that they're going to use most often. And then we move up and up and up gradually towards, hey, do you know we have a custom field that links directly to the device in Halo, so that when you're looking at the devices page and you want to make a change on the Halo side, you can just click a button and you don't have to, keep context switching between the two, stuff like that. So running automations, what they look like, disabling policies, right?
So it sounds like your process, I mean, in some cases you're sitting down with them, they're shadowing you, or you're just kind of going through and just showing them exactly what your, how things work. Do you then also give them any kind of, not homework, but anything to like basically review to help them get up to speed? Or is it just more of a matter of like, okay, we're going to accomplish the basics, you guys go for it, and then there's a lot of tapping on the shoulder afterwards? What's it look like?
For now, yes.
Yeah.
I tell everyone, if there's ever a question on any of the platforms that I primarily manage, always feel free to reach out. Homework is a good idea. I don't know how well it would do yet, but that's something that I have been looking into for a while, is actually like having an established like actual LMS platform. But that's a whole different topic. And
yeah, I mean, it does get into, I mean, I think about the Empath guys. I mean, this is one area that they have really been focusing on building up training platforms. And they've been talking to us about like, hey, we get a lot of requests from Empath users. Empath, for those of you who don't know, is exactly that. It's a LMS, basically, platform for MSPs. And we're friendly with the founders over there. But they have a lot of requests for NinjaOne content to help with the training and everything. Josh, let's turn it over to you. So what's it look like over in your parts? Is it a lot like what Charlie's describing, or are there differences?
So pretty similar. I mean, I guess for about the past year or so have been working to try to better truncate our training process. So, I have always been the kind of person that any job I've ever gone to, like, I don't want you to necessarily hold my hand and walk me through it. I want you to throw me at the wolves and leave me alone, because that's how I figure it out. But I also very quickly learned over the last year or so that not everybody is that way, and not everybody likes to dance around in the fire and just figure it out. So, we kind of started putting together, so Ninja was kind of the focal point of the beginning of when we started putting together our training, and not just necessarily in, what to do and how to do it in Ninja, but what, we've kind of put together a combination of throw them to the fire, but have expectations as well. So like we put together like a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day plan, rubric, whatever you want to call it, of expectations for people that are coming in, where even if you're starting out fresh and you're just, this is the first time you've come to an MSP, you're coming from a help desk environment, which, anybody that's ever worked in a help desk environment, it's a lot of read some questions and then inevitably hand it off to somebody else. and that doesn't really work in an MSP world, as most of the time you are where the buck stops, especially in a smaller environment like we're at. There's nobody for me to hand it to, so I got to figure it out. And I kind of like to do that with the techs as well, where I make myself available, or the other techs available to one another, so that if they come across a problem, they're not just completely left to their own devices. But I like to try to inspire people to learn to do things on their own, as opposed to, oh, this guy already knows the answer, I'm going to go over and ask him and he's going to do it for me. Because you don't learn anything. And if I don't know the answer, chances are I'm just going to go in there and Google it anyway. And last I checked, everybody I have hired has 10 fingers and can also go to Google and find the same answer that I can. So we really kind of narrowed that down into more specific plans of not just what we're expecting from you, but to give you a guide of what you should be learning. And whether it's in homework, I don't expect, obviously, from the 8 to 5, you don't necessarily have time to sit down and learn PowerShell, even at the basics, if you don't know it. But I also look at it like the tools that you use every day. You're not going to go become a roofer and have no idea what to do with a hammer and sit there and look at it and do nothing. Like, you're not going to make it very far as a roofer. So, if your everyday job requires you to do things that can be made more simple with PowerShell, why would I not expect that you learn some rudimentary level of that? And again, we'll teach it to you to an extent, but I don't feel like if I just tell somebody how to do something, I'm the same way with my clients. I'm about educating my clients, not just doing it for them. So like if I'm at a client site and they're having the same problem over and over and over again, I'm finally going to hit a point when I identify that I'm just going to sit them in front of the computer and I'm going to say, here, you do it. This way you're going to remember it, because if I just do it for you always, you're never going to remember it. And I just kind of led that into our training as well, because I saw a lot of people would come in and they'd sit down and then they would just expect that it was going to be like any other, MSP job is very different from a corporate IT job or any other segmented IT world job where you may be on the 365 team and all you do is 365. It doesn't work that way in an MSP. You're going to do 365. You're going to do network. You're going to do security. You're going to do maintenance. You're going to do customer service. You're going to do all of it every day, all at once. So we built out an overall plan to try to kind of corral people into a different mindset from just, I'm going to show up at work at 8 a.m. and I'm going to do the 10 things that you asked me to do, and at 5 p.m. I'll leave. And try to build people into more of a career focus than a job focus, ultimately, because at the end of the day, I don't want to bring people in here that look at a job like it's just 8 to 5 and I'm here to do exactly as you tell me, nothing more and nothing less. I want people that are looking to innovate, people that are looking to bring ideas on what we can do differently, people that are looking to bring ideas to help the company overall grow. Because, it helps for a company to have everybody on the same team as opposed to just people showing up. If I wanted to just show up to work and do the same thing every day, I'd go to McDonald's.
100%. I mean, I think it's probably a balance too, right? Like wanting to build that mentality, which you can't, we're talking about some intangibles that it's hard to train, right? So you're hoping to hire for that. And then you're training the specifics, the tools. What do you need to actually be able to get your work done?
For sure.
I'm going to hand this over to Robin for just a minute, guys. I'm sorry, but I will be right back. And Robin, over to you. I mean, one question I was going to ask you guys is, Josh, as you're talking about this, we talked about training can look different for people who are just coming in entry level, new to the role versus advanced roles. Obviously, that training is going to look different. I'm also kind of curious about, you've been using Ninja for a while, how training has kind of changed as you've gotten, more people. You've gone through this process of getting people up to speed multiple times over the years. What have you learned? What's been different?
For the most part, it's stayed when it comes to Ninja, it's stayed relatively the same. It's very similar to, like Charlie mentioned, I just kind of got to just sit down with them and spend some time making sure they're going about the right spots and doing the right things. And, I am maybe not as much towards the I prefer you to do it the way that I do it. I mean, sure, everybody does, but I know people find ways that make things easier. In my opinion, as long as you're not cutting corners and creating problems, I don't really care how you get from A to Z, as long as you get there uh, effectively and I guess ethically. But it hasn't changed too terribly much. I mean, there's definitely a lot of new features that I'd say the biggest hurdle that I had was getting people just to remember, like when we use the SaaS backup product and it being separate from the single pane of glass. It took me a long time because I was used to just doing everything in Ninja, and it was probably a couple months went by, we'd bring on new clients, and I'd have to really stop and think, did I do everything? And almost always the thing that I missed was going to that other portal and going through that process. So we had to make a little change in the way that we kind of did it. But you know I the structured part of our training, I think, is more for me on my end to make sure that I'm doing for them what I can do, where it's really hard in an environment, especially a smaller and very busy environment, to get that cutout time to just sit down next to somebody and spend a couple hours. So, Charlie, I will say kudos to you, because I don't know where I could find 4 hours to spend sitting down with anybody for anything. But um, the you know ultimately, I think it hasn't really changed drastically, but there have been some modifications as new features come to the way we kind of go about showing people the newer features and getting them on board with, like I said, remembering to utilize them.
Is there anything that we could be doing differently or better in that regard? I mean, there's obviously there's the actual certification training. I'm not sure if you guys utilize that at all, but I mean, there's 2 modules of that. I think at this point we're looking to add to it, and then there's obviously all the different webinars and videos. But if we can be helping you guys in other ways, making more specific, I don't know, like how-to trainings that we
To
could
be
definitely be interested in.
entirely honest, the greatest training tool I've ever found when it comes specifically to Ninja is just pushing them to join the community. That's the best tool I found out of anything. I I'm not the guy that sits and watches a training video. One, I'm a little bit old school. With my first MSP job, there was no remote monitoring and management. We literally had to, oh, there's an alert, get in the car, drive over there, do things. But I prefer articles over videos. But I think ultimately, speaking to other people that are in the place that you are, or have come across the problem or the issue that you have and have already resolved it, I think that from a Ninja standpoint, the community is the greatest training tool that you guys have over everything, over any certification or anything else. It's the ability to speak to other users and have those conversations openly and without, I said it before, I think in the last stream that I did, like, you look at a community like Reddit and immediately everybody is just, why would you use that tool? That tool's gross. That tool's not the right tool for you. Nobody ever answers your question. Um, that doesn't happen in the Ninja community, and I have used it countless times, not only to assist people that run into problems that I've had or problems that I run into. So that's one of the biggest things I try to push our other techs to. Usually they kind of ignore it. I think it's more so they're afraid that somebody's going to walk by and see them on Discord and be like, what on earth are you doing? Why aren't you working? But like, that's not a problem. Just as long as you're not, video game chatting over there or something.
I mean,
But
that is something that has come up in the past and everything too. And I mean, obviously we have a lot of people taking advantage of it, so it hasn't been. But yeah, I am concerned about being a limiting factor to some regard. If anyone in the chat too has any requests from us, I mean, just definitely toss them this way. I see, Striker, you had first. Let's go ahead and cover your obligatory troll question. How long do you wait to train new employees when they find where they can find the template library? First thing,
Never
when they
tell
sit
them.
down.
I actually just never tell them. That's forever a mystery.
And then he also has another question. Have you found any good ways to incentivize, encourage your employees into learning those products and to further explore opportunities to automate and simplify work? So this kind of gets into, that second part of it. It's beyond just like, okay, here's the bare minimum. Like you're talking about wanting people to come in with this and wanting them to have that curiosity or that drive. Like, how can I use this better? How can I start automating things? Charlie, I mean, this is something that has been a huge focus for you personally. How do you try to develop that with other people too?
That's been a hard one, definitely. My counterpart, Sean, he was originally like the automation engineer over at the company, and he would handle everything within the Automate platform. And when I came on, I would write scripts and I would hand them over to him because I didn't want to touch that thing, right? And then moving over to Ninja, it's like, okay, now he has to learn PowerShell, right? And I try to provide him with some resources and so a little bit of code review, I guess you could call it. As far as newer techs that come in, there are a few that have definitely expressed interest in doing so, and I've definitely provided them with some resources. But unfortunately, it just hasn't really gone further than that, for them at least, right? I definitely, am the one who is focusing the most on writing scripts and, other sorts of things to make our life easier in the automation front. But it is something that we struggle with currently. Definitely I struggle with, right? I know internally we are starting to develop a sort of like Stretty like platform. I don't know if you've heard of Stretty before, but it's one of the things that this platform can do is sort of track like personal progress. So we are trying to, and I need to pick a new one actually. We are trying to have people set goals internally, and they don't necessarily need to be work related. But hey, I want to dive deeper into this one thing. I want to get a certificate for Ninja, right? Or I want to. We just picked up Connect Secure. Hey, I want to do the training for Connect Secure. Stuff like that to try to incentivize people more. I think there's stuff attached to that, but that's above my pay grade. So that is something that we're definitely working on.
Incentivizing is kind of a tricky thing too, because at the end of the day, it's one of those intangibles that Jonathan mentioned earlier, and that it depends on the individual. That's really what I've learned. I mean, there are some people that will come in and you can kind of spot it in an interview from time to time, and sometimes you can't. But sometimes people are just full of it and really good at being so. But you have some people that look at or got into tech and technology line work because it was something that fascinates them and that they enjoy, and it's something that is a hobby for them and a passion for them. And then you have the people that just saw my computer career commercial on TV and decided I could probably make some money and do that, and they go into it and do it. And that's why, like, I've never been the guy to look at, okay, well, this guy's got 12 certifications and this guy's got none. Well, the guy with 12 certifications also copy pasted all of the suggested skills from Indeed and put it on his resume and didn't put any actual human thought or effort into his resume. So that pretty much tells me somebody told him technology was a good field to get into and he just put himself into it. He doesn't have a care or a passion for it. Where, like, I am not like a super huge scripter or anything like that, and that's not my world. But technology has been my world since I was probably about 6 years old. I watched my grandpa play around on an old 486 computer. You know, he was a CPA for a huge company, and I would go in and just bang on the keyboard, and something would inevitably break, and I'd watch him spend hours fixing it, and he finally realized what was going on, and then he said, "You know what? You're going to figure out how to fix it," and it started, and it's been that way my whole life. So you know, it depends on a person's comfort level on how you can incentivize them. I mean, you can set up your test environments or you know whatever for people to work in, but if they don't want to do it, they just don't want to do it, and they're not going to. You're not going to twist their arm into it, and it's whether you at that point as an employer want to take the skills that they do have and make things fit what they do, or if you even want to continue, you know, bringing them along for the ride. In my opinion, I think each person has to individually be responsible for their own well-being, so to speak. At the end of the day, you can give them the tools, but you can't build the house for them.
Well, yeah, and I mean, even show, you know, if you do want to make a progression or here are the things that what that role means and what it requires, and having those things kind of being laid out. And then it's up to them if they want to make that journey or not, for sure. You know, you mentioned like 6-year-old Josh going in, banging on keys, breaking stuff. And it's funny because in the chat, we've got people talking about exactly this. We got adults coming in, banging on keys, breaking stuff. Like you're trying to have that balance of, hey, get into the tool, play, like start utilizing it. Like using it is probably the best way to learn it. At the same time, don't bring things down. Like like an RMM is a very powerful tool. You want to put some guardrails around it. So we had David, you know, talking about testing environments. Dan was mentioning keeping a demo environment specifically for people to play on. Anything like that? Any advice around that? That balance of, okay, we want you to go in there and try things, take initiative, but we still got to do so responsibly and carefully.
I could say don't do what a predecessor of mine once did and set up your test environment on a virtual machine on your main office server that houses everything. That's about the best advice I can give you. Make sure if you're going to put up a test or demo environment, it's not attached to your real environment in any way. That's pretty good there. But yeah, I mean, if you have a decent demo and test environment, let them go crazy. Let them do whatever it is that they think they're doing. But you also have to add the. I did have the same beard at 6 years old. Thanks. I was born this way. No, you do have to kind of add the. Like you have to come back. It's the same thing like with your kids, right? You can set guidelines for your kids, but if you don't ever go to look and make sure they're staying within those guidelines, they're going to push them as far as they possibly can. You know, if you're going to give somebody a test environment and something to work with, and you're going to give them an idea of what they should be working on and learning, you also have to be able to go back and look to make sure that's actually what they're doing, and that they're utilizing that in the correct way, and that there's still going to be some guardrails there ultimately, not only to protect yourself, but just you don't want somebody wasting a bunch of time trying to figure out how to put cat pictures all over your screen in PowerShell as a joke. You know, ultimately it needs to be productive. Although sometimes it is fun to, you know, put cat pictures all over somebody's screen, but that's for later.
You got to do the PowerShell script to play, you know, the Star Wars theme.
Oh
right?
yeah,
That's the productive move.
I'll drop a
I'd
link.
probably get raised for that around here. Our hold music is the Imperial March, so
Amazing. I think we had a link of PowerShell resources, and that was like buried within, like, there was one link that, like, to a GitHub that had like 500 scripts, and that was one that like you pulled up on. So I wanted to call out this comment from Dan, which, Dan, thanks for saying this. I mean, I think this is kind of what I was alluding to before too. I think I see this too, that a lot of the training from Ninja is really built for you're starting up, you're building out your instance, your environment from scratch, and it's really for the admin, the owner of it, and day-to-day usage. developing some materials to help people jump in, and there's an environment that's already existing. It's how do I actually just go in and start utilizing this effectively? I think that's a great call out that we need to work on.
Yeah,
Charlie.
I would agree.
Go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I would agree that those definitely lean a lot more towards the admin side of things than they do from a just a simple tech perspective. I mean, that is necessary as well. I mean, when I first started here and using Ninja, we weren't using permissions at all because it was unnecessary. It was pretty much just me and a guy that'd been here 9 years. So, they were nobody put any permission restriction on me, and he never put it on himself. So then when we started bringing more people in, I, tried to look through and go through some of those different options, and it was a little confusing to me at first as someone who never really dealt with permissions and breaking all of that down. It took some wading through, but I will say what makes up for it is the live streams. I mean, I've learned a lot of things I never even thought about doing with Ninja from, just Jeff Hunter. The guy blows my mind. But yeah, I agree. That is definitely a place that some focus shift could be beneficial overall.
Charlie, so you mentioned, you're kind of starting off, the team is growing. It's gotten to the point where, you are hiring new folks, and it's not that initial core of folks who are going to figure it out. And you're realizing you need to have some more standardized or going in that direction. Do you have kind of like a future state that you're hoping to get to in terms of bringing on new folks and training them up?
Ideally, we would have an LMS, and we would eventually, I would like to see like a certification basically in-house that says like, hey, I've passed like L1 tech, right? And that means I can go into Ninja, I can perform these functions, I can go into Halo, I can perform these functions, and any of the other tools we have, right? We use Evo Security and a few others. That's what I'd really like to work towards, and have one for each level so that we can, definitely properly delineate like, what my role is according to what my skills are, and, temper expectations of what this particular person can actually handle, right? And they can skill up as they go along. But, we don't want to give a ticket to an L1 or an L2 to, perform this huge project of, migrating off Active Directory and doing all these other things, right? So I think part of our need for training is not just, hey, we need to upskill this person, but it's, hey, we need to make sure that we have proper expectations so we're not getting upset, or, we're not questioning, hey, why isn't this person able to do this, right? Well, obviously, not everyone comes in just knowing everything. And not everyone, as Josh said, is the type of person who works after hours for several hours in an evening trying to figure it out because, their interest has been, piqued or whatever. So, that's an end goal, is have internal certification, basically.
You mentioned. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I wanted to say one other thing, unrelated. It's related to what you said earlier. So I use Ninja from 2018, 2019, skipped 4 years, 2023, brought it back up again. I did want to say the platform, though there have been UI changes, it was so similar that for me, as someone who hadn't touched it in 4 years, I was able to come back in immediately and know exactly what I was doing, basically. So, there have been UI changes, but they haven't been significant enough, though you did move custom fields, and I am upset about that. They haven't been significant enough, for someone who basically didn't touch the platform for 4 years to, really have an issue. So I did appreciate that when I came back.
There's definitely been, emphasis has always been like making this easy to use. That's a superpower of the product and everything, trying to keep the UI that way, not make them big, complicated jumbles. And the work continues as Ninja does. Like, it's a balance, right? Like, as Ninja trying to maintain that power, trying to add on, making it more powerful every day, but maintaining, it's still got to be easy to use. It still has to have that simplicity to it. Well, when we think about training here, maybe one thought to leave on is any kind of other resources. I mean, you mentioned things that you would point to. When I think about this, like Charles, when you were talking about the different types of L1, L2, and everything, I've seen people get very documented around this. I'll drop a link into the YouTube description. There's an MSP who had on their website exactly what that journey looks like to progress and what they would need to do and everything. And I thought, man, this is really stands out as being heavily documented, and they've really got their stuff together. I've also seen people take it another step forward and highlight individuals and develop individual, basically capacity or competency forms, charts around, okay, this person's maybe in some areas more like level 1, but there's a few things they can specialize in and be way up here. And just keeping track of that and being able to direct tickets that way and get them on the right work, and it kind of guides their whole journey. I mean, if you have someone who's able to get outside the day-to-day fires and actually think about things that way and get the tools to do it, and you're mentioning the LMS and everything, it sounds like you're kind of being put in this role, and I'm sure you have other things you're doing too. It seems like that's kind of a big obstacle for it, is really being able to, if you're going to be able to think about this and really start doing some things intentionally, you got to be able to have the time to do it. And I mean, who has that? So yeah, I mean, I guess final things for like resources or things that you're thinking about as you're hoping to build things out.
I would say on our end, a huge resource for me, at least, even in my own learning journey all the time, is, YouTube. If I need to learn something about networking, which, sometimes I do, and I'm about to do a big rollout, in the next week or so, definitely going to YouTube. And there's a few different channels out there. I don't have them by name right now, but, going through and explaining the different concepts, maybe, specifically the stack that you're using, like the manufacturer and everything like that. I go to YouTube for everything. Aside from that, as much as I hate to say it, ChatGPT. I have been I don't want to say a hater, maybe a naysayer of, ChatGPT beforehand. But I've started to, warm up to it, and it has definitely, given me some perspective on some problems that I've had before, explaining some stuff. It's also hallucinated and told me completely wrong things.
Be careful with that.
Yeah,
I can't believe we made it 43 minutes into it without coming into AI here. Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to be careful, but
I think it has a big advantage in being able to at least shift your, like, I don't know about for everybody else, but I've noticed, especially with highly technical people, we tend to jump past the most obvious answer and go straight to the most complicated, because the most complicated is what entertains us. So then we'll spend hours chasing a whole bunch of issues that don't exist, and it could have been something as simple as turn it off and turn it back on, which I've been there more than a time or two. That's like the rule number 1, and I break it all the time. But ChatGPT has definitely been helpful in presenting something that either you just didn't even know existed, like a firmware level recovery on a MacBook. Never heard of it a day in my life. Just did one the other day. Boy, was that a nightmare. But giving you a different perspective is definitely helpful. It doesn't always have the answers, but it will send you down a road that you were never even thinking about going or didn't even know existed.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really interesting for people who, if anyone in the chat is using it and finding really good results. I mean, examples of prompting too. I imagine, trying to root it in real world expertise. As according to these standards, then tell me this. Then what would you do? Things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's that is part of the training. It seems like it can be so powerful, so helpful, but then again, having to verify seems like it's a whole nother thing. But it's also like going to Google. You mentioned, Josh, we all have these fingers that we can use to Google something. More and more often, people aren't Googling; they're going to ChatGPT.
Yeah,
I'll tell you. I'm going to give you a personal anecdote right now.
Okay.
I had one of my techs was having issues with this Intuit software. It's like Intuit Meet or something like that. They would install it and it wouldn't open. And he's getting frustrated. And I mean, there's nothing to do to configure this application. You just, it's an MSI, you click install and it should be there. It's not working. They eventually get on the phone with Intuit support. They're saying it's on your side, it's your security tools, it's your remote management, blaming everything under the sun. So it gets escalated to me. And I start looking at it, same thing. I'm like, this should be simple, 2 + 2 type stuff. Eventually, I try to run the application in the terminal, and it spits out a bunch of errors, which I don't really understand. I started looking at the lines. I'm like searching Google, what's going on here? Nothing. Finally, I'm like, you know what? Let's try it. I tell ChatGPT, hey, I'm trying to run this application. This is, we run it. I can see the processes. There's no window. Here's the error log. Bam. Immediately. It's like, you're probably missing the Microsoft Visual C++ redistributable. You should try installing that first. I did. Boom. Works. And so then I went to, the tech after I completed the ticket. And I'm like, hey, this is exactly what happened. This is what I did to find what the problem was, as far as getting the logs. And then I asked ChatGPT, and it actually gave me the right answer, which was surprising. Now, something with ChatGPT that I don't like, that we have caught people doing, is them typing in questions, getting answers, and then responding to tickets with those answers.
No.
That is a big no-no, right? And I've been telling everyone, if you want to use this thing, sure, we're actually working on bringing in some LMs in-house. But I definitely never want to see you ask ChatGPT something and then send that as a recommendation to a client. That, so we've gotten that trained out of them now. And that was a relatively easy one. But, for a couple months, it would pop up here and there. And, I had to do this one.
It has its pitfalls. We once had somebody literally stand up front talking, because we have a residential aspect too, and was talking to a client, and they would answer his question or say whatever. And as they're saying, he's typing what they're saying into ChatGPT, and then literally just reading word for word what, oh no, what just happened?
Oh no.
ChatGPT heard you.
I don't want you to know this critical information.
Oh no.
Well, we can still hear you, Josh, for what it's worth. Maybe your camera got disconnected. There you are. You're back.
OBS tried to take over, and I don't know why. I don't even
have
man. But yeah, like sitting there literally reading the answers word for word back to the person. And I was just like, no. And you have to use your brain. That's the whole key aspect of anything to do in this job, is like you need to be able to use your brain. And it's a helpful tool, but people can certainly misuse it for sure.
Well, it goes back to the very beginning when you were talking about your approach to training and how not just completely sink or swim, but I mean, you want to get people to think. You don't want to just feed them the answer, because all that trains them to do is go back to you over and over again.
Right.
They can't think for themselves. And so, and that alone is a hard thing to do too, because it takes more time in the short term, right? Immediately in the you can save time by just giving here's the answer. This is going to take way too long to explain. I'm just going to tell you the answer, but then it doesn't
You
become
do
something
yourself a disservice, and you do them a disservice when you do that, because ultimately, like you said, they're just going to keep coming back. And if you've got a million other things going on, you can't stop 30 times a day to answer somebody else's simple question, and it breaks your concentration. But you also do them the disservice of, I'm not pushing you to be the better person that you can be, and to upskill yourself and build confidence within yourself. Because I think at the end of the day, it boils down to confidence. Nobody wants to be the person that breaks things. Nobody wants to be the person that messes up. But at the end of the day, we can all tell you we're all going to break things, and we're all going to mess things up, and we're all going to have to figure out how to fix them. Other than maybe Mikey. I think Mikey might be the only perfect IT person in the world. I don't even think he's here today, but there's nobody out there that's going to not break something. But the fear of breaking something, I find, often limits people from taking that step forward to learn something new or do something that's unusual to them.
Yeah, and Mike, I mean, he's saying he's having the same struggle right now. Just can't get that confidence level, or just taking that next step. I mean, I think about this too, with like having the that built-in curiosity to take one additional step, to be a little bit more proactive or intentional, I guess. Yeah, it's a hard
Why
thing
don't
to
work on my car? It's expensive when you break your car. It's expensive to have somebody else do it, but it's also expensive when you have to do it 3 times yourself to fix the one thing you messed up the first time. Like, it's finding and knowing where your boundary is, but if you never approach that boundary, you never have any idea where it is.
Good point. Well, guys, this has been a great discussion. Definitely appreciate you both. Appreciate everybody in the chat too. We've got some things to work on here with Ninja. Like, you gave us some good ideas for additional training stuff we can make that will help you guys bring team members up to speed with just using Ninja day to day. But I always love these streams. We've got more coming up throughout the year. If you're not a member, you have the Discord, which I'm sure most of the folks on this stream, if not everybody, already is. But if you're not, check it out. Join us. Josh and Charlie are active all the time and super helpful. I mean, it's amazing. I think we're creeping up to 15,000 members now historically, and
Wow.
it's
Right.
insane. And it's built on people like you, really jumping in and helping out. And then we also do have our PMs who don't really so much sleep, and you can find them at all hours on there too. But we'll be doing lots of live streams coming up. We did drop a link into a quick survey. Want to know, like, what other kinds of videos and streams would you guys like to see? And some of those, one of the options included shorter kind of how to, task by task things. And so anyway, like with Ninja, like everything we do, we want to build together. And so thank you guys for joining in, sharing your thoughts, being so collaborative and everything. And hey, 2 weeks in, we're almost we're still here. 2 weeks into January. Happy New Year, guys. Yeah. Really appreciate you all. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Have a good day.